My name is Tiffany Thrush, and I'm 28 years old. If you'd looked at my life from the outside a year ago, you probably would have called it boring. I used to call it that myself, half joking, like I was preemptively apologizing for not being more interesting or dramatic. I worked as an IT consultant. The salary was good, the clients were stable, and my apartment downtown was small but tidy, the kind of place that felt intentionally simple rather than unfinished. I drove the same reliable car I'd had since college, fully paid off, no surprises, no stress. My days followed a predictable rhythm that barely changed. Up at 6, forcing myself through an hour at the gym that was mostly cardio and mental bargaining. Work from 8 to 6, troubleshooting network issues, calmly explaining for what felt like the 1,000th time that a password cannot be password 123, all while keeping my tone professional and pleasant. Home in the evening, something easy to eat, a little scrolling, a little reading, then sleep. Stable, predictable, quiet. I told myself I liked it that way. I thought I did. For 3 years, that quiet life had another constant layered into it. Liam. We met at a house party our senior year of college, both of us only there because our friends had threatened to physically drag us out of our rooms if we didn't socialize like functioning humans. Liam was a communications major, overflowing with charm and energy, the kind of person who could work a room effortlessly before he even had a real job to justify it. I was the burned-out computer science girl who had spent too many nights staring at a screen full of red error messages, surrounded by empty energy drink cans and stale snacks. From the start, Liam was bright in every sense of the word. Big gestures, big ideas, big personality. He talked about building a personal brand long before most of us had figured out how to write a decent resume. He knew which professors mattered, which alumni were worth following up with, which networking events were supposedly non-negotiable if you wanted a future. He told me he liked that I was grounded, that I had my life figured out, that I was steady. Back then, it sounded like admiration. After graduation, I slid smoothly into an IT consulting role with a decent paycheck and almost no debt thanks to scholarships and years of grinding through part-time jobs. Liam landed an entry-level role at a boutique marketing agency. It was his dream field, but the pay was terrible and the hours were brutal. "It's temporary," he'd say, kissing my forehead while I silently added up our combined income in my head. "This is how you pay your dues before the big jump." 6 months later, the agency went through a round of layoffs during an industry dip. Liam came home pale and shaking, holding a cardboard box with his coffee mug and a sad little desk plant. "They said my performance was great, but they can't afford junior staff," he told me, his voice breaking. "I did everything right, Tiffany." I remember how small he looked sitting on my couch that night, shoulders hunched, confidence cracked open. Something inside me shifted. I stepped in without hesitation. I covered his portion of the rent for 4 months, $1,000 each month, disappearing from my account almost as soon as it landed there. I paid for 3 online courses he promised would make him more competitive. Social media strategy, brand management, digital storytelling, each one hundreds of dollars. I told myself it was an investment in us. When my company floated the idea of promoting me to a role in Chicago, a serious pay bump, better clients, real career growth, Liam panicked. "Please don't go," he said, eyes shiny and voice tight. "I'm just getting back on my feet. I can't handle this and long distance. I need you here. We're a team, right?" So I said no. I still remember the email draft sitting on my screen. "Thank you so much for the opportunity, but after careful consideration, delete, delete, delete." I told myself that was what partners did. They sacrificed. The first year after that was good, really good. I bought him suits for interviews, shoes that wouldn't embarrass him at networking events, and more polished casual outfits than I'll ever admit out loud. "You never get a second chance to make a first impression," he'd say, holding out my credit card like it symbolized teamwork. I believed we were building something together. Slowly, though, the tone began to change. It started with small comments. "You'd look amazing if you dressed a little sharper. Like my friend Whitney's boyfriend always looks so put together." Just a thought. Sitting behind a computer all day is safe, but it's not exciting. People don't get that. I brushed it off. He was under pressure. His industry was ruthless. Of course he compared himself to others. Of course he was restless. I told myself he didn't mean it the way it sounded. Then I started noticing other things. His phone always face down when I entered the room. Late-night strategy sessions at coffee shops across town. The way he dressed just a little too carefully for casual brainstorming meetups. When I asked, he laughed. "Tiffany, you're overthinking," he'd say, kissing my temple while already heading for the door. This is how relationships die. Mistrust. So I trusted him. That was my first mistake. About 13 months ago, he insisted we try a new sushi place downtown. The kind with tiny plates and lighting so dim you needed your phone flashlight to read the menu. "It's good for us to be seen in places like this," he said while making the reservation. "You never know who's watching." From the moment we sat down, something felt wrong. He checked his watch repeatedly. His phone buzzed nonstop. He barely touched the edamame. When I asked about a pitch he'd been stressing over, he answered in clipped, distracted fragments. The air felt tight, like the room had shrunk, and I was the only one who hadn't been warned. The waiter set down our California rolls. Liam placed his chopsticks down carefully, like he was preparing to negotiate peace between nations. "Can I be honest with you, Tiffany?" he asked, his casual tone making my stomach drop. I forced a smile. "Aren't you always?" He laughed softly, leaned in, glanced around as if anyone cared. "There's something that's been weighing on me," he said, "and it's time we talked about it." I froze, sushi hovering over my soy sauce. "Okay," I said slowly. He exhaled dramatically, like this was hard for him. "My friends are honestly embarrassed for me when I bring you around." For a moment, my brain refused to process the sentence. "What?" I set the sushi down, my fingers numb. "Don't make this harder than it needs to be," he snapped. "You're sweet, you're kind, you're stable. But in our circle, it's about ambition, status, story. You sit at home coding while I'm out building something real. When people ask about you, all I can say is she's nice. That's humiliating." Humiliating. Memories snapped into place. Rooftop parties, forced smiles, comments afterward about me being too quiet. "So this is about how you look to your friends?" I asked softly. He rolled his eyes. "It's not just that. I reconnected with someone. Remember my ex, Vanessa? We ran into each other at that networking event you skipped because you were tired." My mind stalled. "Your ex-girlfriend Vanessa. She's in venture capital now," he continued. "Drives a Tesla. Knows everyone. She gets my vision. With you, it feels like I'm settling. You're comfortable. Vanessa elevates me." That was it. He was leaving me for his ex because she looked better on paper. I thought about the rent, the courses, the promotion I'd turned down. I could have argued. I could have begged. Instead, something inside me went quiet. "So you're breaking up with me over sushi because your friends are embarrassed, and your ex looks more impressive." He nodded, relieved. "It's not personal. I just need someone who matches where I'm going. You're stable, but stable is boring. This is me being kind." I took out my wallet, counted out my half of the bill, and set it neatly on the table. "Okay, Liam. Good luck with that." He looked startled. "That's it? No fight?" "What would be the point?" I asked, putting on my coat. "You're chasing something I can't and won't be." For the first time, he looked unsure. "Enjoy the rest of your dinner," I said, and walked out. Just my footsteps on the pavement and my heart pounding. I didn't know it then, but that walk split my life in two. Before, when I measured myself by someone else's approval, and after, when I finally decided to impress myself. When I got home that night, I didn't cry. I didn't scream or throw anything. I turned on the lamp by the door and looked at my apartment, which felt like it had been holding its breath for months, and finally exhaled when I shut the door. I dropped my keys into the bowl by the door, the metallic clink echoing louder than it ever had before. My apartment was quiet, too quiet, but not in a lonely way, more like it was waiting for me to notice it again, notice myself again. I sat on the edge of my bed, still wearing my coat, shoes still tied, and stared at nothing in particular. It wasn't sadness, it was clarity, like someone had wiped a fogged mirror, and I could finally see the outline of who I used to be before everything got swallowed by we. The next morning, I started deleting him. Not dramatically, just efficiently, like I was debugging my own life. First, his toothbrush went into a plastic bag. Then the jacket he'd left draped over my chair last week. The hair products he insisted on buying, but never seemed to pay for. The hoodie he always forgot to take home. Everything went into one neat box. I didn't drop it at his apartment. I didn't text him about it. I handed it to a mutual friend with a simple instruction. If he wants it, give it to him. If not, throw it out. I don't want it in my space. Then I changed my Netflix password, removed him from my emergency contacts, unfollowed him on every social media platform. Didn't block, just removed. Let him stare at the blank void if he came searching for updates. That afternoon, one of my closest friends called. What happened? He texted me asking why you're not responding. We broke up. Silence, then a sharp inhale. Are you okay? I surprised both of us with my answer. Yeah, actually, I think I am. Because deep down, as humiliating as that sushi conversation had been, something inside me had uncoiled the moment I walked away. A trapped version of me, finally stretching her limbs. I wasn't going to beg someone to see my worth. And I wasn't going to build it in whispers or an apology. I wanted to feel strong again. Not just emotionally, but physically, tangibly, fiercely strong. So on Monday morning before work, I did something I'd always wanted to do, but had let him shame out of me. I walked into a kickboxing gym, the kind that smelled like sweat, rubber mats, and determination. Motivational quotes painted on exposed brick walls, loud music, a trainer barking instructions over it all. My first class nearly killed me. 3 minutes into jumping jacks, I was gasping. 10 minutes into combinations, jab, cross, hook, uppercut. I felt like my limbs were attached with mismatched screws. The entire time, I was convinced everyone was looking at me, silently judging my lack of coordination. But somewhere between the first awkward punch and the last exhausted exhale, something shifted. Nobody cared how messy I looked. Nobody was comparing me to anyone's boyfriend or ex. Nobody expected me to elevate them. It was just me, my body, and the work. I walked out drenched in sweat, shaking, exhausted, and feeling more alive than I had in years. I came back the next day, and the next 3 times a week became a routine. My muscles screamed, but in the best way. I learned to wrap my hands correctly, learned how to pivot on the balls of my feet, learned how to breathe through the burn, learned to hit pads with everything I had. Every ounce of frustration, humiliation, heartbreak, and determination converted into power. Somewhere along the way, my trainer pulled me aside. "You're stronger than you think," he said. "Keep showing up." So I did. Kickboxing wasn't the only change. I revamped my wardrobe, not to look impressive to anyone, but to feel like I deserve clothes that actually fit. Instead of hanging on to old sweaters and clearance rack jeans out of habit, I tried on things I used to avoid. Sharper cuts, structured jackets, colors that made me feel awake. For the first time in years, I was dressing for myself. Not for someone's friends, not for somebody's ex, not to avoid judgment. For Tiffany, I also made a decision about something I'd always pushed aside: starting a side hustle. I didn't want to rely on just one stream of income anymore. I didn't want to be the dependable IT girl who never used her skills for herself. So I started offering freelance IT consulting for small businesses, places struggling with outdated systems, weak security, or confused staff who needed gentle guidance instead of tech jargon. My first project was a dental clinic, still running Windows XP. Yes, XP, who begged me to modernize everything before their insurance company dropped them. When the office manager hugged me afterward and said, "We've been praying for someone like you," something lit up in me. My second client was a law office whose entire network had nearly been wiped by ransomware. I rebuilt their infrastructure, trained their team, and set up fail-safes. When one of the partners called my work life-saving, I felt something I hadn't in a long time: pride. Not performative pride, not look at me on social media pride. Real, internal, quiet, steady pride. By 3 months in, I had 5 retainer clients. By 6 months, that number doubled. Money was nice, sure, but it wasn't the point. The point was that every win was mine. My confidence grew at the same pace as my strength. Kickboxing 3 times a week, strength training twice, cardio on off days, meal prepping every Sunday, sleeping better, walking taller. I didn't post about it. I didn't brag. I just lived. And slowly, the people I pushed away during the Liam years trickled back into my life. A friend from college invited me to join her indoor soccer league. Another asked if I wanted to grab brunch. Someone else asked if I'd help with their computer. I said yes to all of it, not because I needed people, but because I wasn't hiding anymore. I wasn't shrinking myself to make someone else feel bigger. I wasn't contorting my life to look good next to someone else's narrative. I was rebuilding, and that rebuilding was steady, quiet, powerful, right up until the day I heard my first update about Liam. I didn't ask for it, didn't look for it, but one night during a gaming hangout with a mutual friend, someone said, Tiffany, you are not going to believe what's happening with him. I didn't react at first. I just kept sipping my water. But inside, I felt it. A tiny flicker of curiosity. Not longing, not nostalgia, just curiosity. Because when I walked out of that sushi restaurant, I never imagined someone else's vision of better could fall apart so spectacularly. Turns out I was wrong. I didn't go digging for gossip. Honestly, I didn't care enough to go looking. But life has a way of dropping information in your lap exactly when you're strong enough to hear it without flinching. It was a Thursday evening. I had just finished a brutal kickboxing session, sweat still drying on my skin, knuckles aching pleasantly from pad work, when my phone buzzed with a message from a mutual friend. Hey, you might want to hear this. I almost ignored it, but something morbid curiosity maybe made me open the voice note that followed. The second their voice came through, the tone told me everything. Pity mixed with disbelief. You know that ex of yours? Things are bad. I didn't reply, not because I wanted to appear unbothered, but because the part of me that had once bent itself into knots over Liam's reactions simply didn't exist anymore. Still, the details came spilling out over the next week through mutuals, group chats, little slips in conversation. The venture capital girl boss who had supposedly swooped in and elevated him, a con artist. Not metaphorically, not in a dramatic, exaggerated way. Literally. Fake LinkedIn credentials, fake firms, fake investors, fake charity events, fake startup, fake everything, except for the debt. She'd done it all before, in other cities too. A trail of ex-business partners and ex-boyfriends left with empty bank accounts and embarrassing credit card statements. Apparently, the Tesla she drove was leased under someone else's name. The fancy restaurants and glam events they posted about were charged to credit cards she never intended to pay off. And Liam, my ex, who left me because I wasn't impressive enough for his circle, had fallen for all of it so fast. He didn't even see the ground disappearing beneath him. He paid for her flights to non-existent meetings, covered temporary cash flow issues, split dinners he thought were romantic, not realizing she brought him there because she didn't want security cameras catching her with another partner the night before. Funded a startup that existed only as a PDF pitch deck and a Wix website she slapped together at 2 a.m. By month 3, she had convinced him to co-sign a loan. Then she disappeared, blocked him, moved out, vanished with the last bit of liquidity he had. By the time the truth came out, Liam was drowning in credit card debt, late fees, overdrafts, a ruined credit score, a reputation that made even his shallow friends step back and pretend they had no idea what was going on. The irony was so sharp, I could have cut myself on it. Months earlier, his friends had laughed behind my back for being boring and unambitious. Now they were the ones avoiding him, embarrassed by association with a man who'd been conned on both the financial and social stage. Karma works fast when you stop blocking its path. Meanwhile, my life was unexpectedly settling into something bright. Kickboxing became the best part of my week. The trainer who once barked at me to fix your footwork now nodded approvingly when I executed a clean combo. My endurance shot up. My muscles carved themselves into lines I'd never seen before. Sitting, Walking, even breathing felt different, like I was inhabiting my body for the first time. My freelance work blossomed. A small clinic referred me to another. A law firm referred me to two more. Each good review triggered waves of new clients who wanted someone competent, stable, reliable. Funny how boring becomes priceless once people actually depend on you. I wasn't rich, but for the first time, my money felt like it belonged to me. Every deposit in my bank account was proof of my own skill, not a sacrifice drained to keep someone else afloat. It was around this time that I met someone. Not dramatic, not cinematic, not a he walked in and the room spun moment. Just real. A casual invitation to a friend's backyard barbecue. A slow conversation that went from burger toppings to books to business goals. Warm laughter, a kind smile, easy silence. He treated me like a human, not a stepping stone. He saw me, not my status. He didn't elevate me. He respected me. That alone felt revolutionary. But we kept things slow. I wasn't looking for fireworks. I just wanted peace, and for the first time I was getting exactly that, which was probably why Liam's return into my orbit felt so surreal. The first message came at 2 a.m. "Hey, can we talk? I've been thinking about us." I stared at the notification for maybe 3 seconds, then deleted it. No response. The next day, I know I messed up. Vanessa ruined me. I miss what we had. Please answer. Delete. Still no response. Then came the phone calls. 6 of them back to back, enough to make my phone vibrate off the nightstand. I let every one of them go to voicemail. Hours later, curiosity got the better of me. Just enough to listen to the first one. His voice was shaky, breathing uneven. "Tiffany P. Please, it wasn't you." I was under pressure. My friends kept comparing me to their relationships. Vanessa lied to me, used me. I didn't know what I had until it was gone. We made a great team. You were always there for me. Please call me back. No accountability, no ownership, just a man desperate for comfort now that his shiny upgrade had crashed into flames. I deleted the voicemail, blocked his number. That should have been the end of it. But people like him don't give up easily when they think the world owes them forgiveness. Which is how 2 days later I got a text from an unfamiliar number. "Stop blocking me. I deserve closure." And then another. "You're ignoring me is cruel. After everything we built, you can't just disappear after everything we built." As if I hadn't built most of it myself, financially, emotionally, structurally. I just tightened my hand wraps, stepped onto the gym mat, and punched the pads until my arms felt like molten metal. I wasn't going backward. Not for guilt, not for history, not for someone who'd replaced me with a fantasy and discarded me like a placeholder. I thought that would be the end. I thought silence would be enough of a message. I thought blocking every number he used would close the door. I was wrong, because desperation makes people bold. And Liam, ruined, humiliated, friendless Liam, was about to take that desperation right into my real life. He was going to find me, and he wasn't coming for closure. He was coming for redemption I no longer owed him. I should have known he would show up eventually. People like Liam don't understand boundaries or respect, or the word no, unless it's coming from someone they're trying to impress. But he didn't approach me at home or at work. He didn't ambush me in a parking lot or slip notes under my door. No, he went exactly where he knew I'd least expect him. My favorite coffee shop. The one with the brick walls and mismatched chairs. The one where I'd built pieces of my new life. Meetings with clients, cozy mornings alone, study sessions with friends. The one place he'd avoided for years, because he said it had no aesthetic that fits my brand. I was sitting there with someone important to me, someone who had slowly become a steady presence. His name doesn't matter here. All that matters is the way he laughed easily, listened well, and never once made me feel like I had to earn my place beside him. We were mid-conversation over brunch, my fork hovering over an Eggs Benedict, when the air in the shop shifted. My companion glanced up first. "Tiffany," he murmured softly, "I think someone's coming over." I turned and there he was, Liam, hair unwashed, shirt wrinkled, eyes bloodshot like he'd been up all night. He looked small, not physically, but spiritually, like his arrogance had deflated, and the remaining pieces hadn't figured out how to hold themselves up. He stepped forward with a kind of desperate determination. "Tiffany, please, just please don't get up. I need to talk to you." I didn't stand. I didn't smile. I didn't panic. I simply set my fork down and met his eyes. "What do you want, Liam?" He swallowed hard. The sound was audible. "I'm sorry about everything. About that night at the sushi place. About the things I said. About not appreciating you. I was stupid. I was so stupid." My companion stayed silent beside me, but I felt his presence like a warm shield at my back. Liam continued, voice cracking. "She used me, Tiff. Vanessa used me for money, connections, everything. She lied about everything. Her job, her life, all of it. My friends haven't spoken to me in months. I lost my job. My credit's a mess. It's all gone. I'm alone. And he took a shaky breath. "I just need you. You were the only real thing in my life. You were stable, grounded, kind. You're the only person who ever cared. I can't believe I threw that away for nothing. Please, can we just try again? Start over, please." His voice broke on the last word. The cafe was silent around us. A couple at the next table pretended not to listen. A barista froze mid-milk frothing. And I felt nothing. Not pity, not satisfaction, not anger. Just a hollow, gentle absence where his presence used to live. "You don't need me," I said calmly. "You need help and accountability and consequences." His face twisted, hurt first, then disbelief. "Tiffany, come on. After everything, after 3 years," I tilted my head slightly. "You humiliated me, replaced me with your ex because she made you look better, insulted my career, mocked my stability, and now that your life fell apart, you want me to fix it." He opened his mouth, but no words came out. My companion finally spoke, voice firm but not hostile. "I think she's been clear." Liam's eyes flicked to him, hostile, threatened, panicked. "Oh, I get it," he said, bitterness creeping in. "This is why you're acting like this. You've got someone else now, huh? You moved on fast." I didn't flinch. "You walked out on me long before I walked out of that restaurant." He stared at me, breath hitching. "This isn't fair," he whispered. "I'm trying. I'm apologizing. I'm begging you. Doesn't that matter?" "No," I said softly, "it doesn't." For a moment, the world held still. Then his expression darkened. The desperation in his face curdled into something sharper, uglier. "You're being cruel," he snapped. "You're different now, cold. You think you're better than me?" "No," I replied. "I just finally stopped thinking you were better than me." That was when he shut down, not acceptance, in resentment. He muttered something under his breath, spun on his heel, and walked out the door with a kind of broken determination, like he wanted the whole cafe to witness his exit. I didn't watch him leave. I picked up my fork, breathed slowly, and returned to my brunch. My companion squeezed my hand gently, and I let him. I thought that was the end of the story. But karma wasn't finished. 2 weeks later, I attended a low-key birthday dinner for a friend at one of those casual restaurants with dim lights and loud music. A warm, easy crowd. A mix of college friends, coworkers, people rebuilding their lives just like I was. I showed up in clothes that actually fit me now. A fitted top, clean lines, quiet confidence. My shoulders felt broader. My stance felt steadier. Months of kickboxing had carved something out of me. Something strong. When I walked in, a few heads turned. "Tiffany, you look amazing. Damn, girl. Jim's been treating you well. You thriving lately or what?" I smiled genuinely, not because I needed their validation, but because it felt good to be seen without being compared. Then, near the bar, I spotted him. Liam. Sitting alone. Staring into a drink he couldn't afford. Clothes mismatched. Posture wilted. Our eyes met. He stood immediately and walked toward me, shoulders hunched like he was carrying invisible weights. "Tiffany." "Hi," I responded with polite confusion. "Do we know each other?" His face crumpled. "What? Tiffany, it's me." I raised an eyebrow. "Oh, right, from a while back." A tiny, sharp inhale escaped him. "This isn't funny." "No," I said. "It's honest." He blinked, swallowed, looked at me like I'd turned into a stranger. "I miss you," he whispered. "I miss what we had." We didn't have anything, I said. I had something, you had options. His shoulders sagged. I've changed. Maybe, I said, but the version of me you once knew is gone. I stopped shrinking myself to fit into your world. You can't guilt me back into the space I outgrew. He looked like he might cry. You're cruel. No, I said gently, I'm free. Silence stretched between us. Then I walked away and rejoined my friends. Laughter swallowed me whole. Warm, real, effortless. I didn't look back. Later that night, I received one final message from an unknown number. You'll regret treating me like this. One day, you'll be alone and remember what you ruined. I blocked it without reading the rest. Because the thing about closure, it doesn't happen when the other person apologizes. It doesn't happen when they beg. It doesn't happen when karma finishes the job. Closure happens the moment you decide the story is over. I decided mine, the night I walked out of that sushi restaurant.